223 is all Australia could muster up, and I think muster kind of sums up the innings, because that's how they managed to get there, by scrapping, by fighting, and somehow getting there close to the 50th over. But it was all the damage done up front, as we saw the damage in the first semi-final for both India and New Zealand, and that's been the story of the semi-finals, among the lowest power play totals in the entire tournament. 223 the completed total. Steve Smith, as always, brilliant in World Cup or ICC knockout matches. What the score means is two things. One, we're in that territory of a possible close game, but two, and more importantly for the moment, that we have a recipient of the My 11 Circle Expert Couch, which is Robin Uthappa. Come on, give yourself a drum roll on those. Excellent. There we go. You called it. It seemed like a brave call at the time, and he just went out on a limb and said 225, and we were like, what's he talking about?
Well, it did, and I was backing the English bowling attack, on a slightly fresher wicket. So I thought that, and I knew that they would go hard at the Australian batsmen, because their top order, their top heavy, the Australian batting lineup, and I knew that if they could get a couple of wickets from, in the first 10, then they would be able to push them back to a lower total.
Yep, Finch, Warner, Hanscom, maybe not quite the quality of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul, but almost getting a parallel from Australia's point of view. Three big names like that back in the hut, and they didn't really have that much to follow after that. Scary played brilliantly, and Steve Smith was single-handedly holding it together.
The wicket has looked good. There is no doubt about it. I think it was just very good bowling from English bowlers is what I felt. The lengths were superb. The intent was there, I think. And what today's bowling performance talks about was the intent from the English bowlers being courageous to bowl those deliveries up than what we have seen so far in the tournament. I think that's the biggest lesson they've learned from their match against Australia at Lord's. So that's something which really helped them. And once you have 3 wickets for nothing, you always create that kind of a pressure. The partnership between Carey and Smith was suggestive of that fact that the wicket is nice to bat. They could put up that 100-run partnership under pressure as well. Showed that the wicket is not a bad wicket to bat on. It just the pressure which was created by some good bowling with the new ball has got them in that kind of a situation, and it was very difficult for them to then get on to a really good score. What also helped England was those couple of wickets together in that middle phase. When that partnership was broken, they actually got 2, not 1, and that's something which was the vital spell of bowling by Adil Rashid there. Supporting that momentum which was created at the beginning of the innings so nicely, and these are the margins which you speak about, isn't it? Having that instead of 3 wickets, you have say 2 wickets up front, and then you lose a couple of wickets together. You still have that little bit of cushion to recover from there. I think which wasn't the case once that damage was done up front. It was all in all a great performance by English bowlers. I still feel this total, what Australia has got, the wicket looked like 270, 280 is par. So I think they are well short of that par. So they're going to need something really special to pull victory from here. I think it's going to be England's day today. With some of the fielding efforts, also you saw that the luck is going England's way.
How good is that?
It's moments like that.
It's like in moments like those is when you recognize that then today is like England's day.
Or like Nisham's catch or Guptill's run out in our game.
That literally went through this much of a gap in his legs, just that much. Like from the angle from behind, we saw that it was probably just this much of a gap, and went right through that, and it was flush on the stumps.
That another 20 runs you're talking about.
Exactly.
Smith
that would have been 240, which
looking
has been
like he was getting there.
Yeah, which is the most annoying score in this World Cup. The 240s have been the most annoying score. That's why I chose 225. Initially I was going to say 240. Then I thought, nahin yaar, 240 is that dicey score. So I'll pull something back. And that's why I said 225.
So you're basically suggesting whatever score you would have suggested is what they would have got.
No.
It sounded like that.
My days aren't that good yet. But yes, I had a feeling that if they got wickets up front, then they would be bundled out for 220, because Stoinis and Maxwell have been patchy this whole tournament, and you had a feeling that once Carey got out, you knew that they might not go all the way with the big score, because it was even when I think before the com box we were discussing that if Maxwell and Steve Smith bat through, then they have a chance of 260, 270.
Yeah.
That seemed like a real possibility, but Maxwell got out literally the next over just before we started the com box, and at the 35th over he got out.
And they were losing wickets, as Zaheer pointed out. I think we could just have one more quick look at the fall of wickets, and you can see that they lost it in plunks. In clumps. I was thinking of Liam Plunkett and I was thinking of plunks. Well, it could have been plunks, except Plunkett wasn't among the wickets. But have a look at that. As you saw, top three first, then Carey and Stoinis pretty much back to back, then Maxwell followed by Cummins, and then another mini partnership for 10 overs, and then Smith and Stark right at the end, just when it looked like those extra 30-40 runs could have taken them to slight more respectability.
Yeah, even Steve Smith, for that fact, I think towards the 45th over, 46th over is when he started going after it. Because he was that lone batsman there, it was critical for him to even bat till the 49th over before going after the bowling, for them to even get close to 240. Now, if he had gotten out, which unfortunately he did get out, he was forced to play this kind of an innings. The wicket isn't that challenging for him to play that kind of an innings.
It was just because he didn't have anyone.
He didn't have anyone along with him, that he was forced to play 120 balls for 85 runs today. It was just the case of Steve Smith's innings today.
Yeah, but of course it was his great form in ICC knockout games. I mean, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, all the big players contribute when it matters the most, and today he looked like the tough situations get these big players going, and that's something which was the case with Steve Smith today. That doesn't matter what kind of form he was coming off, he was in the zone, and when it mattered, he was ready to stand up there and deliver, and he almost did. All he needed was just a bit of a support from the other end, which Alex Carey did provide in that middle phase. It's just that that someone like Stoinis or Maxwell needed to be there to have that impact, because these are the power hitters which you're talking about, right? And seasoned power hitters. So if they had played that innings of say 60-70 runs, like how we've seen from someone like Jadeja also the other day, then they would have got to a total which would have been really competitive on this track. But I think they have fallen short by a substantial margin, and that's something which England, even if they don't have the ideal start what they are expecting, I think they'll still be able to pull it through, and this is the build up which also shows that they could just never really get that innings going after those first three early wickets. They managed well to get the run rate to 5+, but again those fall off wickets in bunches put them on the back foot, and from there it was very difficult for them to get to a total.
That's the segment 31-40 that you thought that they were doing decently. 2.7, 5.1, 5.2. They've 5 wickets down. Now they started building a partnership. Can we get a step ahead? They couldn't. That's where the break.
Because after you lose Alex Carey and Stoinis back to back, what tends to happen is you have to slow the game down. The batsmen have to slow the game down for them to build another partnership, to put up 20-25 runs together. Once you do that, you feel like, okay, you can push the ante a little bit. Then you push it up to 5, maybe 4.5, and then push it up even further. And then in that process when Glenn Maxwell got out. So again, it was a big slump because there was no one batting after that, right? So it just became difficult after a point.
Yeah, we saw the clumps. Now let's go back to the plunks, which I was trying to say earlier, the plunks as in the bowlers, Plunkett and company. But of course, it was not Plunkett at all who showed up on this particular occasion. He didn't need to, even though they all bowled pretty decently. If you have a look at the economy rates on the right, nobody really gave anything away, but it was the wicket takers who kept things quiet. Chris Woakes started the damage right at the very top. Jofra Archer kept him company, and between the two of them, they blew it away. And I think you mustn't forget, as obviously seen on that, Adil Rashid's contribution in the middle.
Yeah, like I was saying in the com box, as in when he was going for runs, we were discussing upstairs that the team's run rate is 4 and his economy rate was 7.2, and then we were saying, you know, he might just spoil the party for England, and the next thing you know, he's gotten 2 wickets, and we're like, whoa, commentators curse reversed. so you know, he came good for them, and initially it was a tad bit expensive, but once he got wickets, then the economy came back, and he finished really strong, which is what is most important, finishing strong.
I think what was important from English side was they got the ball up front. The intent was there, so that means the chats and the discussions around those kind of things had happened in the dressing room. Once they have seen success with that, I think Adil Rashid came good at the right time for them. You know, when the seamer's job was done of picking those 3 wickets in the first 10 overs, you know, the middle overs, the impact of spinner was also there. Even though he was expensive, he managed to take those 2 wickets in succession. That's something which again got England back into the side. I just felt there was a moment in the game where English bowlers were getting carried away by not being proactive in that phase when they were looking to bowl those death over kind of a bowling. They went for that plan when Mitchell Starc was batting and he hit some lusty blows of that. They quickly understood. I think, you know, that's something which was good from today's minute observation, that they were able to be proactive in that situation and got the lengths back. So rather than going for those Yorker length deliveries, they thought that, okay, you know, let's go fall back onto those lengths which were working on that particular track, which really changed things around. So I think, you know, what the momentum shift also which you're talking about, and the shortfall of those 20-25 runs had English bowlers carried with that kind of thought process, just succumbing to pressure of that situation. I think they would have ended up giving away 30 more runs is what I felt. But I think they've been proactive today through and through, be it the first spell, be it the middle overs, or that moment in the game where things could have got little out of hand. They managed to pull it back by just smart thinking and some communication among that group, which was good to see.
Smart thinking, proactive, held it back. We'll talk briefly about Australia's bowling and what they can do to try and rectify this situation. But for now, let's go to one of 2 people we always end up going to. Jingo Nath apparently has tried to board a flight back to India or wherever he comes from. And no, it is India actually, so he said. And his friend Danish is still very much around. This is what he sent us from Birmingham.
Sad song start in 1, 2, 3.
क्या हुआ तेरा वादा वो सनम वो इरादा भूलेगा दिल जिस दिन तूने वो दिन
Hey guys, my name is Danish and this is Center Stage on Cricbuzz. It is time for semi-final number 2, England versus Australia. We're here at the Edgbaston. It's a huge game and there's a perception about England versus Australia and their rivalry. Apparently the Ashes matters more. Is that true? Or does the World Cup still take the front seat? Let's ask the fans what they believe and let's see if England are ready to welcome the World Cup home. There's a perception in India that for you guys and for the Australians, the Ashes really matters. World Cup, we're all like, yeah, okay, just another tournament. Is that true?
I think that's true for the Aussies because they've won 4 out of the last 5 World Cups, so they don't really care anymore, and the Ashes mean more. But I think for us, we've been so short of success in one-day cricket for such a long time. I think it matters to us more.
No, I think Australia would like to win both the Ashes and the World Cup.
Yeah. But you guys have so many World Cups. How many more?
As many as we want. The more the merrier.
Like the Ashes is just like the oldest and like most historic competition, so it's probably the one with the most tradition and weighting behind it. But I think everyone gets very excited about the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
But probably maybe just not quite to the same level.
I just missed the Indian crowd in the final because the Indian crowds are fantastic.
Yeah, and it already feels like such a lull, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's always a party atmosphere when India plays. Yeah.
The one thing that binds the English and the Australian fans is the magic that the Indian fans bring to this World Cup. The team may be out, but the fans aren't. India out of the tournament. It's indeed a very, very sad space for all us Indians. Let's start a sad song on that note at the count of 1, 2, 3.
क्या हुआ तेरा वादा वो कसम वो इरादा
अभी क्या कौन जीतना चाहिए वर्ल्ड कप? कोई फर्क पड़ता है क्या आपको?
फर्क तो नहीं पड़ता, just match enjoy करते हैं बस.
Lots of no words to say. It's very disappointing. but they fight till the last innings. That's only good thing I have seen the last night.
कितना मतलब कितना बहुत फील हुआ कल?
बहुत फील हो गया, अभी तक डाइजेस्ट नहीं कर पाया, इसलिए फिर भी
डाइजेशन नहीं हुआ दिख रहा है,
इसलिए ऐसे ही आ गया.
So it's not like a celebration mode. It's not really World Cup without India. Porka nadagama emporapu poi kanaka denandorum ezhudayila the sami urangi ezha.
सर ये क्या है? आप व्हाइट टाइगर, इतना बड़ा थैला और क्या क्या है? निकालो, पूरा निकालो. चलो बैठते हैं सब लोग. बैठो 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 सर. और क्या है सर? निकालो और निकालो, पूरा निकालो.
कम ऑन इंग्लैंड जीतेगा भाई, जीतेगा इंग्लैंड जीतेगा.
कुछ भी चेप के इधर से उधर लगा दिया. टिकट है तो कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा.
Oh man, it was a 2-day game, but well worth it. Had to change all my plans, but it was well worth it.
नेक्स्ट. क्या सर दुखी है क्या?
दुखी हूँ ना. इंडिया लॉस्ट हो गया मैच, इससे थोड़ा दुख हो गया. लेकिन फिर भी ठीक है, आज आए तो देख लेंगे मैच, इसलिए
अभी क्या करें, अभी आए तो देखना पड़ेगा, जो भी दिखाएंगे.
जो भी दिखाएंगे.
Come back Simon, come back Simon, come back Simon.
एक सेकंड सुनो, एक सेकंड. अरे ओ मामा जी आओ ना साइड में.
क्या हुआ तेरा वादा.
अभी एक दूसरे को लपट लो सर, ऐसा सैड सैड क्राइंग क्राइंग लपट क्राई कर. ऐसा रोने का एक्टिंग करो, रोने का एक्टिंग करो.
I mean, it's still a game, but we have given our heart out and we played good. It hurts, but we are still gonna move on and march ahead. And 2023 is not far enough, far ahead.
अरे बाबा जी पीछे दो, पूरा थमा इधर ही बांध दो सब लोग. आ जाओ. हाँ शुरू करो सर. बजाओ बजाओ अंकल जी, बजाओ बजाओ बजाओ.
Other than the sad songs, it's hard to imagine that India are out because the fans are still there. Those few who are still there are still making more noise and are showing more enthusiasm and colour than all the Aussie and English fans who are present there. And the Aussies admitted it.
We just like to have fun. That's just the thing. I think it's. I mean, every time you want to go to the stadium or fans think of going to the stadium, I think it's more like going to a party, and the atmosphere is that of having fun and being cheerful and all of that. So I'm sure a lot of them bought tickets for this game, thinking that India would be in this semi-final. So and there'll be tickets for the final as well. So all of them will turn up there and just try and have a good time. Celebrate cricket in that sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Zaheer, your breed is not something England's batsmen are very fond of. Left arm seam. So while you might be thinking, and you were whispering before the show, that this should be a cakewalk for England, that is a factor for them to contend with. Have a look at England against left-arm seam. Since April 2015, we're talking about the top batsmen, Roy Morgan, Bairstow and Ben Stokes. And that's a fair amount of dismissals.
Make no mistake, there is no doubt that the new ball is going to be vital in this innings as well. It's just that you're seeing a semi-final where you could see the eagerness and the keenness of English team going out there, and you could see the pressure falling back onto the Australian side. We were talking about leading up the semi-final as well, that Australia was just looking to taper down a bit in terms of momentum of the tournament. So that's something which should play a part as well here. It's just that initial phase, Finch will try and go hard at English batsmen for sure, because for Australia to win the match, they need wickets. It's not a case of when the total is like this. It's not something which you hope that you will take the game to the last over and it will go down to the last over and there will be a winner. No matter what the result is of the match, and whether it's in Australia's favour or in England's favour, the match is not going to go down to the wire. Either it will be Australia getting those breakthroughs and getting those wickets regularly in this match and finishing the game, and England buckling under pressure, or it is going to be England who sees the phase off in a very, very positive manner. Those first 10 overs put the pressure on England, on Australia bowlers, get the start which is required, and the game will finish by 40 overs. I think either way, I'm seeing this game finishing around that 40-41 over mark.
Very hard to argue with him because of the record he's had in the last few games.
Yeah.
But But I just have that feeling with that 220 to 240 type total. I know it didn't touch 240. That somehow it can actually become a close game.
So my feeling is that it's going to be like a double-edged sword. Australia are going to go hard at the English batting attack. England are going to go hard at the Australian bowling attack. Because if they if they thwart that first 10 overs, and if they get to say 60 at the loss of 1 or 70 at the loss of 1, they've possibly batted.
So you don't know attack is the best defense kind of
attack
policy
is the best mode of defense in today's game. That's what I think is going to happen. I agree with him. I think the game's going to get over between the 35th and the 42nd, 43rd over. I think that's what's going to happen. But I think that they're going to go and attack, because that's also their most natural form of batting. The English, they like to attack. They like to take counter attack against the bowlers. And the last time around, they didn't do that. They lost wickets and they kind of tried to get into a shell, except Owen Morgan played a shot and got out. Everybody else tried to get into a shell and they lost wickets. Today, I think they're going to go and attack, especially with Jason Roy and Bairstow being in good form.
And remember when they played at Lord's, there was no Jason Roy. That's the time he had that injury. He had gone off, and the last three, have a look at this, Bairstow and Roy in Cardiff. Then, of course, there was no Jason Roy around for those few games. He came back against India, against New Zealand, those two big games when England were up against it. You know, they needed pretty much to win both those to even be in the semi-final, let alone win a World Cup.
Yeah.
And they got themselves 2-century stands.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going to be important. I think everyone knows Australia is going to come hard, because the only way they can win is to get wickets. Getting wickets is the only way they can win. So you know that they're going to come hard at the English batsmen. The English batsmen, for their part, are going to come hard at the Australian fast bowlers, because for them, they're attacking batsmen, and their best mode of defense is going to be to take the counter attack mode. That route.
And also you look at the nature of the dismissals as well on this surface. It hasn't been something which is alarming for batsmen. You know, predominantly the wicket had played good. You know, there has not been any seam movement which is alarming for batsmen, or batsmen are going to find it tough to deal with. You've seen the dismissals which out of those first 3 dismissals, 2 were just of the good length ball doing enough. And that's something which has been the case. Dismissal of Warner was off the bounce, and that is going to happen with the new ball. So yes, new ball is that phase where it's going to be crucial. But when you look at the lengths of Mitchell Starc and Jason Behrendorff, they're not predominantly back of the length bowlers or really full bowlers. Wicket will play better than what it played in the morning. So on the hindsight, it was definitely a good toss to lose for England, and that's something which by the end of the game we'll be talking about. I think, you know, the wicket has eased off nicely. There will be a true bounce. The initial phase with the new ball, unless you get 2-3 wickets and something happens, will be a different story. But it won't have it won't have that kind of impact what we've seen in the morning of the game. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm actually hoping for an easy chase by England, in spite of the strong bowling attack of Australia. I think it just the mentally also the bowlers will be down.
Yep, and the other difference, of course, is unlike India versus New Zealand, this is back to being an ODI, not a TDI, not a 2-day international, which means that the traditional form of cricket where the side bowling second will bowl in different conditions later in the day as opposed to in the morning again, which is how New Zealand bowled on India's run chase. But that's what we have for you. It's looks like it should be a routine run chase to see an England-New Zealand final. But Australia, with all those World Cups behind them and all that experience, as one of the fans said there in Danish's piece, we can have as many as we want. The more the merrier. So they're not out yet. Cricbuzz Combox in the 15th over. We'll assess everything. This is My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.